a child becomes an adult, an old person dies. One enters a room, one leaves a room. One sets out on a journey. Baruch atah bevoecha ubaruch atah metzetecha. Blessed may you be in your coming in, and blessed may you be in your going out. God is there in the spaces in between, reminding us that we have all along been destined to live forever, ascending through ever higher spirals of awareness and chambers of light, allowing us to remember what has gone before. Now we are able to hang on to the thread that binds one life awareness to the next, returning finally and again beings of pure light. One of the most important parts of a memorial service is, as the name says, is to bring to memory, to recall, to bring through words the lives and actions of a special human being. The idea is that because there's now a vacuum, there's an absence of this person in the world, when we learn about them, what they did, how they lived life, how they loved, how they raised their children, how they were as professionals, to be inspired. And when we leave today this room, to go out there and be more of that person, be like that person, because the world is lacking of their presence. I didn't have the honor to get to know in depth Michael, but what I've heard up from conversations with family, with his wife Diane, with his daughter Shira, is that he was not only a professional, not only a healer, but a teacher and a great parent. I will let others speak of his deeds, speak of his kindness, and speak of the love that he had, not only for his family and friends, but for even for patients and people that he met. Somebody who really lived the embodiment of the value of chesed, the value of loving kindness. I would like first to invite to speak his daughter Shira.
Okay. Come on. All right, y'all are about to witness an out-of-body experience here, so here it goes. Don't do anymore. All right, how many of you have a cutting board, a vase, a bottle of limoncello, a walking stick from the old days, a memory from the country? First of all, it's no surprise you in preparation for our scheduled trip home tomorrow. I decided that I wanted to tell my dad to his face how I felt. I wanted him to know. So just like the rabbi said, for all of you, when you leave here today, if you've got something you want to say to somebody, go say it in his honor. For all the times he fiddle farts around, he didn't wait for us to come. If I had to define my dad with one thing, some of you might think fishing or his German Shepherd Samson, woodworking, bluegrass, or being a doctor, which somebody told him he almost wouldn't be because he got a D in golf. But that's not it. It's an old refrigerator magnet. It's still there, I checked. It has to have been there for at least 40 years, and it says the most important thing a father can do for his children is to love their mother. That is how I would define my dad. He put her on a well-deserved pedestal, even from my earliest memories as a kid. He and my mom loved each other so much, sometimes it was gross. I won't get into the details since there are children in the room, but Josh and I feel each other's pain. He loved surprises. I remember him surprising my mom for her birthday, anniversary, or just because. He had some good ones in there, like the ruby rose she's wearing from India. And there were also some doozies, not quite to the degree of buying her a vacuum cleaner, but one time he flew me in for her birthday to surprise her and told her to go see her birthday present on the front porch. And she said, "What big, fat, stupid thing did you buy now that I don't need?" Josh and I got our fair share of surprises as well. I remember my first car parked in the neighbor's driveway when he brought home baseball player Ozzie Smith for dinner and surprised Josh with grandpa's watch. He wasn't just a special occasion guy, though. It was every single day. There was one time, though, that he did not put her on a pedestal. It was more like the bathroom floor. Mom, I'm so sorry. Actually, she put herself there. They had gone to a fundraiser and mom had a couple too many glasses of wine, which was like 3. And by the time they got home, she was, sans clothes, puking on the bathroom floor. Dad came and woke me up and brought me into the bathroom to see my mom. He said, "I want you to see the teacher." I was around 10 or 11, not parenting, but he loved a teachable moment. He taught us math by learning to play blackjack up in Mississippi. He taught med students at Tulane, and he taught his grandkids woodworking. He did do that. Love my mom, but he loved Josh and I too. And he told us that all of the time. Maybe not quite as much as his dog, but certainly set the bar for being a loving parent. It would have been easy to make the excuse of being a doctor, but somehow he managed to be at every girls' basketball game, chorus concert, school play, tennis match, little league game, karate tournament, and then some. I remember him helping Josh practice his board breaking and taking us to Bissonnet to swim, practicing baseball on the levee. He always let mom sleep in on Saturday mornings and would entertain us. We went on all the family vacations, from ski trips to Colorado to a trip to New York to the Baseball Hall of Fame. We drove, by the way, in the old Chevy Suburban without iPads and iPhones and all the things. Not a lot of gentle parenting going on there either. Somehow he didn't leave either of us on the side of the road, although we probably deserved it, especially trying to give our orders at the drive-thru. He was not a Burger King style, no special requests for our to-go orders allowed or he'd lose it. He'd get out of the car and make my mom go sit in the driver's seat to order. Nope, we didn't get left on the side of the road, but we did almost get sent to jail one time for picking columbines in Colorado, since it was illegal to pick the state flower. One of the biggest tell signs of how Dad has shaped us is not just Josh following in his footsteps and becoming a physician, but the kind of father he is to Joseph, Anne, and James. All right, I'm losing some pages, but that's okay. Josh juggling 3 kids and a freaking botanical garden in the backyard on top of being a vascular surgeon, yet he has been through all of this. It's not been easy for me to be far away, and I try to make myself feel better by saying Josh basically got 10 years of free babysitting, so it's kind of fair, but to say that Dad was proud of Josh would have been an understatement. Not because of your accomplishments, but because of the man you are today is a real tribute to him. Even though you still wear ripped t-shirts, need a haircut, go grocery shopping in their pantry, and don't know how to blow your nose. Dad would have said that you're a real mensch. Speaking of mensch, our cousin Danny is top of the list. He's been a true friend and confidant, and someone my dad has always loved, respected, and confided in. He bragged about his kids, Mari, Tess, and Jess, just like they were his own. Philip, you were a brother to him, even though he almost shot you for showing up in the middle of the night unannounced. You had to really know my dad to love him and appreciate him. There were many that he held a special place throughout his life, but some that cannot go without mention include his parents-in-law, Franny and Sammy, his Aunt Bessie, my late Uncle Jerry, his partner Terry, his woodworking buddies Emmett and Keith, his Mississippi buddy Mark, his stockbroker Murray, dear friends Gail and Narong, Amanda, his stand-in daughter, and Jack, who he treated like one of his kids. He was proud of your drive, ingenuity, and talent. And can I just throw in patience? Patience for answering the same question 5 times because he forgot to listen to the answer the first few, then interrupted you a time or two. Lisa, you have a heart of gold like my mother. My dad would always say, I don't know how she puts up with your brother, and to which we would always say the same way my mom puts up with you. And Ben, who shares my dad's birthday, love for fishing, guns, and me, hopefully. When I was leaving Atlanta Monday to come here, not knowing what I was coming home to, he said, be tough. That's something my dad would have said. He would have also told you to take care of his little girl, even though he knows I can take care of myself thanks to him. He was a girl power pioneer. To my baby Shy, who always asks to call Pampa, Dad called to ask how his girls were doing. Shy told him last week that she was going to bring him a Hello Kitty Band-Aid for his boo-boos when she saw him in the hospital. I pray that your grandpa's watching over you, guarding your heart and guiding you to all the fish. And I pray you know him through all of us. And his other girls, Grandpa used to call and ask how his girls were doing. He used to sing me a song called Daddy's Girl. It certainly takes one to know one. And his other girls, Tanya and Kim, he held a special place for you, as do I. You are a part of our family. Thank you to our neighbors, Patrick and Natalie, Jay and Paula, Robert and Chris, Jim and Julie, for taking care of the old fogies in the neighborhood. My mom's gonna need you more than ever. There are a couple of songs that my dad used to always sing that I wanted to mention. One is Daddy's Girl. The other is A Father's Love by George Strait. Let me tell you a secret about a father's love, the secret that my daddy said was just between us. Daddies don't just love their children every now and then. It's a love without end. Amen. And the one he's singing to my mom, Randy Travis, I'm going to love you forever and ever. Amen. If you wonder how long I'll be faithful, just listen to how this song ends. I'm going to love you forever, forever and ever. Amen. All right.
I'd like to call Philip Sampson, brother-in-law, share a few words.
Where does one start? Well, if I were to say the beginning, it might frighten you away because I might be here a long time. So I'm going to be brief. Shira, that was wonderful. I think you brought tears, if not in our faces, in our hearts, with those beautiful memories and thoughts that you shared with us today. I first met Michael about 51 years ago when Diane brought him to India to introduce her fiance and soon-to-be husband to the family. And not just the family, the extended family. Whilst Diane and I are the only siblings, we have a pretty large and close extended family, many of us who have joined us from all parts of the world today. And I have to say this, between the exuberance and the welcoming and the fawning over Michael by all these loving family members, and this memorable trip we took him to see the Taj Mahal via train, mind you. It was an 18-hour journey. It didn't faze him one bit. He embraced the culture. He embraced virtually the family members, little realizing, or maybe thinking that, well, they're 10,000 miles away. Once I get through this trip, I'll be okay. I say that in jest because he was not one to escape anything or to want to escape anything like that. But in truth, he didn't realize that we were going to follow him to his doorstep. And it started with myself. And I truly say that I wouldn't be here and who I was if it wasn't for the support I got from Michael and Diane in helping me immigrate to this country. And it wasn't just the paperwork, it was allowing me to be a part of their home as I attended university, making me feel at home, away from friends and folks who I knew, and being so much a part of their lives. I know I arrived at the end of the month that Joshua was born in 1983. And I remember sleeping on the sleeping bag in their dining room today at their home, and hearing Josh incessantly crying at night as he battled through infancy. And all that from arriving, when they were older, home from university for a weekend and being greeted at the door by their babysitter, Kathy, who was not too sure who I was, even though I vouched for being Diane's brother. But Shira and Josh were home and they had to vouch for me. Unky's here, and she let me in. But I tend to wander off sometimes, so I'll stop right there. The point is that his welcoming, his grace for welcoming myself and even my parents when they immigrated to this country and helping in a very quiet way us settle and make it cannot be told in words. Michael, if I were to say, I was thinking about how can I talk about this man, and Shira put his persona in so many beautiful ways. But for me, it was, actions speak louder than words with Michael. And not that he was a man of few words. I mean, any of you who conversed with him knew he could, talk your ear off about anything and everything, from all his favorite topics to your favorite topics. But the amazing part was his quietly doing what he just did out of love and compassion and caring for not just his family, but his friends and his patients without making a big fuss about it. And to me, when I say actions speak louder than words, I mean, his words were pretty big, but you can then imagine how exponentially larger his actions must have been to that. A generous and giving man, as Shira said, a man who had personal relationships with so many of his patients that he was so happy to introduce us to whenever he had the opportunity. I watched him as a dedicated dad, when Shira and Josh were little, doing everything you can imagine to share his time and his passion and his teachings with them. Whether it was, as Shira said, school activities. I remember going to the club and him teaching you all how to swim, the camping trips, the trips to the country, helping build the cabin. He was the epitome of fatherhood, and one that one couldn't imagine anyone better at than he was. How he loved Diane is probably one testimonial I can give, which might not sound too mushy, was the number of trips he went with her to India on her initiative. He made it a point to get out there with her and enjoy as much of back home as she did, in the spirit of sharing their lives together. His caring and love for family, it will live on through Shira and Joshua and their children. And for us who knew him and who feel this void and loss today, I can only fervently hope that by digging deep and remembering and reliving and recounting time spent with him can help help us heal and keep his memory on forever. We love you, Michael. And every one of us who were blessed to meet you in this life were truly blessed. And I don't think can forget what you left us with. Thank you.
I would like to call now Keith Dufour.
Two tough acts to follow. First, I want to thank Shir for asking me to do this, and Diane and Josh. And I'm blessed to be here and to have known Mike for about 25 years. So I met Mike in medical sales. I was a pharmaceutical salesman, and 1999 was my first detail to Mike. If there are any doctors out there, you know who that is. Mike was a really stoic guy. I had a hard time getting through, but as soon as I found out he was a woodworker and I kind of had a little interest in woodworking, we hit it off. And it was always fun visiting Mike. And he said, hey boy, y'all haven't ever heard him say that. You want to go to a woodworking class with me? I said, sure, why not? So he convinced me to become a member of the Bayou Wood Turners. And I realized I was the youngest guy in the group, and it was fun. We were learning how to turn wood and into vases and bowls and that sort of thing. And as we graduated from that, we ended up hiring one of his patients, Emmett, to teach us to do one-on-one classes at his shop house, and which was a blast. And then I realized, and Mike's kind of taking me on as like a second son. This is kind of cool. I never had our brother, So as our relationship built, we started doing projects together and coming over to the house in the back. And next thing you know, I'm building my own shop while I'm in medical sales. So as time goes on, we finished these projects with Emmett. Mike said, hey, bring it over tomorrow to the clinic. So I can tell you a funny story. So I get to the front and Janice said, we're not seeing reps today. I text Mike, they won't let me in. He said, come through the back door. So I go through the back door. We're sitting in his office 15, 20 minutes later. I said, Mike, don't you have patients to see? The next thing you know, I knock on the door. Is Keith in there? So anyway, Mike and I had more than a professional relationship. He was my friend. And that developed into dinners with my wife and Diane over the last 20 years, which was wonderful. Anytime he was not have a rep lunch, he'd call me, you want to go to lunch? We'd go to get pizza all over town. Anyway, so some of my great memories of a guy who just loved relationships, and I'm blessed to be a part of that, was fishing. Mike loved to fish, as you know. And so me, Mike, and his partner, Terrence D'Souza, would go fishing in the bayou all the time. We probably 24 times over the last 10 years or 12 years that I called on them in that particular role. And I'll tell you just a funny story. So we're in the middle of the swamp, and we had a guided tour. We're in the back of the bayou catching redfish, and we're all inside of the boat. Mike hooks onto this whatever, and it took him 10, 15 minutes to pull it in. And as it gets closer to the boat, I was like, you got a crab trap or something. And we're all looking over, and out of nowhere, some alligator comes up and tries to grab Mike. I've never seen two doctors turn into Olympic athletes within seconds. We were all on the other side of the boat. Of course, we cut him off. Yeah, that was a fun story. I don't know if you ever heard that one, Diane. Yeah, he didn't tell you that one. Anyway, those are really great memories. I've got lots of pictures of it. And the other fishing memories is going to the camp with I have two sons, going to the camp in Picayune with my sons fishing in the pond. And Mike was always Lake Shira. Oh, is it really Lake Shira? Okay, Lake Shira. I know whose favorite was. Yeah, that was a fun time. Mike would always stay connected, and I see that with his friends. He would call me constantly, and more than I called him. And I wish I could go back and change that. But anyway, Mike was a very relationship-driven guy, and I admired that about him. And just to close, I over the past like about 4 years ago, Mike said, "Hey man, let's I need to build a table for Shira." And this is after we actually built a desk for Josh. I remember that project long, like 5, 8, 10 years ago. And I had built a shop. Mike had a shop. I had a shop. I'm still in medical sales. And so we drug that project on for about 3-4 months. I don't know, Ben, how long was it? 3 or 4 months or so, whatever. So came out beautiful. And Mike was always so proud of his work. And anyway, to close, Mike was a gem. He was my favorite doctor. And I will forever remember him. And I just retired from medical sales. And I am woodworking for a living now. And because of Mike Wilensky. So his love will go on forever.
We would like to invite Jack Miltenberger to please join.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jack Miltenberger. I've lived next door to Dr. Mike and Miss Diane for all 23 years of my life, and it's an honor to speak to all of you today. It's never easy to find the right words to describe someone who has meant so much and is no longer with us. But today I want to share just a few memories about Dr. Mike, a man whose influence on my life is something I will carry with me forever. Dr. Mike had a way of making you feel welcome, valued, and listened to. He was the kind of person who would brighten even the dullest of days with just a smile or a few kind words. We spent a lot of time together in his workshop, building furniture for my apartment in college, cutting boards, walking sticks, and hammers, just to name a few things. I remember when my dad and I would build a Pinewood Derby car with Dr. Mike every year when I was in Cub Scouts. We never won, but we still had fun building it together. Whether it was talking to him through the fence, like a scene from Home Improvement, catching more fish than he and his 4-legged companion Samson in Lake Shira, showing me his favorite bagel shop, or simply sitting on the porch and talking to him, I'd often find myself spending time with him, listening to his stories about how he made Miss Diane angry and absorbing the wisdom he shared without ever forcing it on me. He would always ask what projects I was working on, how many ATVs I currently had, and what crazy adventure I was planning for the upcoming weekend. He always told me how lucky he was to have a wife like Miss Diane, and that I had to find a wife who was just as caring, helpful, and patient as she is. He always had a story about Josh and Shir and all the grandkids. He was a proud dad and grandfather. To me, he wasn't just a neighbor. He was like another grandfather, someone I looked up to and learned from in ways I can't fully describe. Whether it was about life, hobbies, work, or just navigating the day-to-day challenges, his words always felt like they came from a place of real experience, like a grandfather passing down life lessons. He was so generous with his time, always checking in on me, offering help, or simply making sure I was doing okay. It wasn't just the big moments. He made the everyday feel special. It was just the small things he did. The way he'd stop and talk to me every time I got home from work, share his latest woodworking tips, even though I had no idea what he was talking about. He had a way of making me feel important, and his presence mattered. Dr. Mike had a heart that was big enough for anyone who needed it. He wasn't someone who sought attention, yet he left a lasting mark on everyone who he had the privilege of knowing. He showed us what it meant to be a good neighbor, good friend, and good person. Today, as we say goodbye to him, I am reminded that while he may no longer physically be with us, his spirit will live on in all of us, in the way we treat others, in the lessons we pass down to the next generation, and the way we continue to care for one another. Dr. Mike taught me how to be a better person, not through grand speeches or lessons, but through simple acts of kindness, patience, and love. I'll miss him deeply, but I also know I'm a better person because of him. The memory of his knowledge, the warmth of his smile, and unwavering care will stay with me forever. Thank you, Dr. Mike, for being like a grandfather to me. I'll never forget you and carry you in my heart. Rest in peace, my dear friend. You'll be deeply missed.
The mysteries of life and death are beyond human understanding. We're perplexed and overwhelmed when pain and anguish befall those whom we love. In sorrow, confronted by death, which has taken Michael from our midst, we feel our frailty. Like delicate flowers, we flourish only for a day. Eternal God, shepherd of Israel, guide us, your flock, with love and with compassion. Grant solace and comfort unto those who mourn, Diane, Josh and Shira, Lisa and Joseph, James and Anne, and Shira and Ben with Shai, and all those who are here today gathered to remember such a beautiful soul. May all your lives together help to sustain one another and add to the blessing which is yours in the memory of the life of your beloved Michael. In the valley of the shadow of death, beside the still waters, and in the green pastures, you, God, are our shepherd. Be our strength and our shield, our stay and our comfort through all our days. And let us say, Amen. We're going to recite now the El Male Rachamim, God exalted and full of compassion, for the soul of Dr. Michael Wilensky. El Male Rachamim, Shochen Mamromim, Amtse Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei HaShchina, במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים, את נשמת מיכאל הלל בן אריה לב, שהלך לעולמו, בגן עדן תמנוחתו. אנא בעל הרחמים, אז תראהו בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, וצרור בצרור החיים, את נשמתו. אדוני הוא נחלתו, וינוח בשלום על משכבו, ונאמר אמן. O God, exalted and full of compassion, grant perfect peace in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of Michael Wilensky, who has gone to his eternal home. Master of mercy, remember all the worthy and righteous deeds that he performed in the land of the living. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. God is his portion. May he rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. And before we conclude with the mourner's Kaddish, I want to remind you again, when you leave this hall, when you leave this synagogue, when you go out into your day-to-day life, be more Michael today and for the rest of your lives. Bring that love to those who you interact, whether it's family or in your professional life. Be a healer, be a craftsman, be somebody who is in touch with nature. Be a transformative force that leaves the world after you're passing by a better place for the next generations. I want to invite you to please rise in body or in spirit as we will say the mourner's Kaddish, words that have sustained our people for thousands of years as we join those who mourn around the world and all throughout our history. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דיברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהא שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא. ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קודשה בריך הוא. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירם בעלמא ואמרו אמן. יהא שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום ממרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום. עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. המקום ינחם אתכם בתוך שער אבלי ציון וירושלים. May the source grant you comfort among all the mourners in Zion, in Jerusalem, and in the world. This concludes our memorial service. The family will be receiving visitors at home. So please, if you're willing to, this will be following this very moment. Thank you for attending, and may the life, oh, you want to say something? Oh, please, yes. What is it?
Right around the corner.
Okay. Thank you, and may Michael's memory be a blessing and an inspiration to all of you. Have a good day.